This is Bryant with Slam, and on this week's Slam Presents, we're going to talk to Kirsten Kainz, Belgrade artist, sculptor, and painting, about her work, being an artist in Montana, being a creative during tough times, and we're just going to get to know her a little bit. So, Kirsten, please just give me an e-pitch of who you are and what do you do.
I guess I could just call myself an artist, and I sculpt with found iron object, and I paint. I paint landscapes and I paint horses.
And what is your favorite piece you've ever done?
I guess one of my very favorite pieces is a life-size rhinoceros, sculpted.
Where can people find that?
That is at a private residence, kind of out to pasture.
Gotcha. Is that hard to let go, or do you prefer when it becomes something in public that you could still see?
Right. There are some pieces that are hard to let go, and I have several that I just have decided will never be sold. But that piece was very fun because it was a commission, and I knew it was going as I made it, but it just sprang out of me, and it was amazing. So it was happy.
You're like the surrogate mother,
yes.
Getting ready for the tough day. Let's talk about your creative process. How do you find ideas? Where do ideas come from?
I have way too many ideas. I'm assaulted by amazing ideas. They feel amazing to me. Whatever strikes me as very beautiful or very important tends to be the things that I need to create. Whether it's animals or landscapes, I want to create what has struck me as so important and beautiful. So there's a lot of that around.
How do you quiet the noise in your head? How do you focus and choose one idea over the others?
Yes, so there has to be a battle of who gets work done first, pretty much. And I don't know, it tends to work out. Someone, something, one project says, pick me, and I, wherever I'm at, however busy I am, I glom on and I go.
Do you have a metaphor on how you think of creative ideas before they get channeled through you? What are they?
A metaphor for my creative ideas.
Yeah. Do you see them as anything? Elizabeth Gilbert and Big Magic kind of talked about them as spirits, I think. I don't know. Do you picture them as anything? Like, where do they come from, I guess, maybe? That's a better question. Where do you think ideas come from? Are they from you? Are they from something greater?
I guess, so on that type of note, when I start working on something, if it's a righteous thing, I feel like the input comes from another place and just comes through me. If it's truly a beautiful thing, somehow some power is moving through me, and it can just come out beautifully.
Well, the cool thing about your medium, sculpting random scrap metal, is some of that inspiration might actually be a physical thing in front of you, right? You see that thing, and the inspiration actually is directly coming from the spring or the chain.
Yeah, it's almost like I can hear a tone, ting, and then my mind starts building off of that one little tone. And
I like to think about that. Things like inanimate objects are also like our friends or things, and we don't, for your bigger things, even if people don't realize it, like their car or something, they might give it a personality. This thing has like a spirit, has a soul, and you get to take that and help find its community, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can create it into something else and give it a whole new wave of energy, which is fun.
And it's coming from, it's joining its friends that all spoke to you to make up this bigger thing. So what is the name of this piece?
I call this one Baby Bison, because there's a really big bison. So in scale, this is Baby Bison.
And what inspired Baby Bison?
A Big Bison.
Then better question, what inspired Big Bison?
What inspired Big Bison is the awesomeness of bisons, how important they are in our history and in our current day, and what incredible animals they are. They're just made for this earth. They are perfectly suited for living in the West, They have had such an important role in the history of the West, and they're beautiful.
Well, it's kind of a funny metaphor to think this is like a regenerative piece. It's you taking something that's old and making it new and giving it new life. And the buffalo itself almost declined because the man and now has kind of come back up and has really been able to rejuvenate. What is your favorite, do you have any, like, when you start with a piece like this, where did you start?
I pretty much visualize I want to know what size it's going to be. So there's a few things that I like to get accurate on any animal. The anatomy has to be a little bit correct. And then from there I can take all kinds of liberties and make it
When you say anatomy,
different.
you also mean proportions?
Proportions. So I want, I always know in a bison there should be a hump here. Like our mind needs to see that there's a hump there, or that there's 4 legs, and there's eyes and ears. But I can stretch those realities as much as, even more if I get a couple of those points correct of the anatomy.
You see a bison made out of recycled junk that you weld together. Are you seeing like a bison in this general color scheme, or are you actually right away picturing in your head the individual components that like makes this? Or do you see like one thing, like you find this, and you're like, that is part of his tail, and it helps form it? Or like, how do you actually see that picture when you first see it in your mind?
So it definitely happens different ways for me. Sometimes I've been asked to make a bison, and in that case I have to visualize the type I want to make, and it's got to be super cool, and then I start looking for pieces to come into this. There's times when I run across a piece of metal and it informs me this needs to be an ostrich, and then because I see like maybe one piece is a perfect neck of an ostrich, then I have to build the creature around it. So there's 2 ways that it comes to me, the idea.
It almost sounds like you're like a story. So I'm a writer, and it's like we think of outlines and major components, or you might see a scene in your head, and from there you have to figure out how to get to A to B. So you kind of see that, you've identified that you want a bison, you may have 1 or 2 key pieces, like this is the perfect ear, and this is the perfect like tail.
Yes.
And now somehow I have to figure out how I'm getting from tail to horn. And I have like this, and I know I have a really good wheel. So you have few like, so then what happens when you have a few pieces? How do all these other like smaller pieces start to get fitted in?
Right, that's important as I work, because there are a few pieces that are just so correct, and they are the key points. And there are areas where I just have to fill in. And it's a little quicker, easier to fill it in, but there also is a level of being mindful. How does it all rhyme? How does it all chime together? So yeah, there's elements that are gonna be what they are, that I think are super strong. Like these curls are really important on this guy. But I've got to make sure that the filling areas are gonna jive with that.
So where does all this stuff come from?
It mostly comes from the recycling yards. People clearing out farms and selling the metal for scrap.
So are you paying attention to Craigslist, Facebook?
Yeah, well,
know your
for
sources
years,
now?
For years I used to just go right to the recycling yards and just go through the piles. And they don't really encourage that anymore. It's hard to get into those. But I can sometimes go I'll drive all the way up to Butte, Montana, and I have a yard that I can go in there and pick through, fill my truck with treasure.
So say you have a high school student or a new artist looking to get into a similar medium. How would you recommend
them to get material?
Yeah, to start getting materials, especially if you're in high school and if you're on a limited budget.
Yeah, I guess I would definitely start putting the word out that you're interested in it, and you'll be amazed how many people will come around and give you special items that they've been hanging on to forever and wanting to, it's going to be something cool someday. And if people start identifying you as someone who does this kind of work, it's going to come your way. Yes, look on Craigslist, put an ad on Craigslist would be a way. I am looking for metal. People will respond and say you can come out and check out what's on our land. That type of thing definitely will happen. And then those are the least expensive ways. The other ways you can do it is look at the antique stores, but that's a little harder.
What about yard sales? Any success in yard sales?
limited.
Limited.
Yeah, it's, if you want a lot at a time, it's, but of course you should always look at yard sales. You never know what you're
Or
gonna
flea
find.
markets.
Flea markets.
A little more bang
yeah.
for your buck on that.
Yeah.
So, where does this piece stand in the pantheon of your favorite pieces, or is that something you don't have?
Favorite pieces?
Yeah, maybe, or do you have a single favorite piece, and then you kind of have a hierarchy, or it's like you just
No,
kind of like.
I have like
more
some special kids, some special pieces for sure. I don't know yet. It's not done. It's not. I can't tell how much I'm gonna love this one because it's not done.
How many small versions of bigger pieces have you done before?
A few, a piece that's something that's gonna always have to be a little bit large because it's a large animal, like a bison. I've done 2 life-size bison, and it's a lot to move around, and it's a big deal. So I've probably done 6 or 7 smaller versions of bison.
Oh, so this is like you've done a bunch of these. But other than bisons, have you done other smaller versions of big pieces?
Yeah, I have owls. I do large owls, medium owls, and baby.
Is there something
baby owls.
less?
There's a little family situation going on.
Do you feel like you lose something when you lose the scale, or is it kind of piece-to-piece thing? Because although it might not be as big, something about the makeup of the materials just hit it right. Does losing
Yes.
or changing the size kind of change something the way you look at a piece, or is
No.
it very much piece-to-piece?
It's piece to piece because even the smaller pieces, there's just magic when you see this regular item turn into, say, a baby owl. It's just like it's got
pieces are just awesome.
it's awesome. So I don't really mind. I mean, I can't make a living off of little pieces, but the feeling I get from them is just the same. If it comes out right. So I don't mind them being small.
Have you ever, how hard is it with sculpting halfway through to realize it's something else completely and you could start to modify? Are you kind of taking any pieces off, or just like you start building it and you realize it's taking this whole new shape and you just have that shape so you just build off of it?
Mm-hmm. There's definitely moments like that. When I know I'm going, if I'm sculpting a bear, I feel like I'm getting there. I've had moments where I had to chop an entire bear head off that was this big because I couldn't save it. I couldn't get the magic in it. And I was like, holy cow, I'm going to have to chop that whole head off and start over. So I have to be willing to stop something if it's not working and start over.
So a piece of metal can speak to you in terms of what it is. When you see a blank canvas, do you have that same voice? Do you see something specific? Or is a canvas and being a painter something that's a little bit more cerebral?
Yeah, sometimes I look at a canvas and a vision goes onto it in my brain, and then I feel psyched, and I can just start and I go. But I can also know I'm going to do a piece before and just go to blank canvas and apply it. But sometimes the shape of a canvas will just send the vision.
That's interesting, because I didn't really think of that. I just always kind of saw it, canvas as a square or a rectangle.
Yeah,
But it's other things, and even the size of it might show you how much of a window you see into this world.
Right, like maybe there's several ideas in my mind, and then the correct shape canvas presents itself, and then that one of those ideas.
It's like no
Tells
creative
me it's gonna be
idea
there.
is solo. It really works off of everything else and the energy you feel around a project. What is the name of this painting?
This painting is named Shared Vision.
Based on the fact that you have 2 horses looking the same way?
Pretty much.
So, could you talk to me about horses as your inspiration? You even have one right below it, right here.
Well, not only are horses just so beautiful as an animal, and they're so self-assured and generally content when they're on their own in a landscape. I love that. But basically, I paint horses because the horses are relationships for me. They are either the strength of one person, a mood, or when they're together, for me, they talk about the relationships between people.
And what is this saying right here?
This one in particular is about people who are so close to one another and have had a long experience in life together, many, many, many layers of life and living and experience. And they are completely on the same page. And their concerns are the same. They're together in this.
How come, well, I guess you have like them in different orientations looking the same way instead of perhaps side by side? What is the symbolism of that placement of people looking the same direction but facing bodily a different way?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they're particularly on a different task or coming from different directions, but they have the same idea. They have the same vision. They have the same goals.
Why the color scheme?
Oh, just vibrant, blue, green, earth, life.
How much do you think about the depth or like the meanings of colors when you paint? Or is it more just you see that these colors are correct more than maybe the meaning of the color behind it?
Yeah, it's more instinctual. And if colors start happening, I start following them sometimes. And then the other colors come together in the right way and play off of them.
Yeah, cool. Kind of looks like they're standing in the clouds.
A little bit.
Are horses your favorite animals?
No.
What is your favorite animal?
A rhinoceros.
Rhinoceros.
Yes.
It's funny, I see bison and I see animals and I see a lot of stuff of the Northwest, but how come no stuff or how come no rhinos in here?
I don't know, they're all out and about. They're in here. Or they're,
For an animal you truly love, like the rhino, do you find it better to sculpt or to paint? Or
I think I've been drawing and painting rhinos my entire life. So I do have a sense of it if I chose to draw or paint them. But I do like sculpting them.
do you prefer to sculpt to paint in general?
I don't know. I have two really great loves. When it's warm out, I don't mind sculpting. When it's cold out, I love that I can paint.
Is there any animal that works better merely as a sculpture instead of a painting?
Well, maybe the rhino.
You think he's better fully brought to life 3D
Yes.
instead of 2D?
Yes.
Something
Just
powerful.
so unique, so much iron, like the textures and the plates, and just really, yeah, that's a good one to sculpt.
Yeah, it's cool because you kind of think of an iron, or like a rhino almost as an armored animal, and there's something very armor quality about metal.
Yeah.
So it kind of works well with the skin. This was a tough year for obvious reasons. As a creative, do you feel that the larger events happening affected you in a creative sense?
Well, for sure. Because I'm a mother of 4, having my kids suddenly not go to school, that was pretty intense. I didn't get to go to work. That was a little depressing. I think I couldn't get to my studio and I couldn't get to my work.
So that it disrupted your productive flow.
Mm-hmm.
How did that manifest in other ways? Did it make it harder for you when you actually found the time because you're no longer in rhythm?
A little bit, yeah. There was definitely, it's hard to go from nothing and jump in and say, let's go. And sometimes the energy's just not there. So yeah, definitely hampered like that. And then I had several commissions that I was working on, and I hired a friend to do the work while I was not present. And then I would get into my studio and check out the sculptures or the lighting, sculptural lighting, and I'd say, oh, geez, I'm gonna have to chop that off. So I had to play catch up on getting my vision of what it should be back into the piece.
Well, that's actually really interesting and something I would never thought of. On a disease that's really known to have isolated people, it actually made it a more community-oriented process for you to create your sculpture.
Yeah, that's funny. It did.
So now you had a partner that you had to work with, but ultimately, like, you're the general contractor, so they're doing some work to help get you caught up, but you're the final creative voice.
Still had to go hone it all in.
Have you ever worked with somebody that was more 50-50, where you're trying to have a shared vision and maybe it starts to diverge? How do you?
Not really in my studio. In my studio, it's what I say has to go.
Gotcha.
But I have done collaborative pieces for sure, and I love that. I've worked with school kids before, where kids bring in pieces and turned them into great big sculptures. I did a big owl piece for the Irving School in Bozeman. Super fun to have their excitement and their energy put into the piece. Things like that.
What's a lesson about doing a creative project with a group of people that you could pass on?
Yeah, I guess it's a fine line of just kind of respecting everybody's energy that they put in, and be ready to accept a lot of different energy and figure out ways to bring it all into one positive piece. You just gotta be ready to orchestrate all that.
I want to step back to before when we were talking about it being disruptive, and sometimes when you were trying to get back into your project, you struggled. So what's a lesson there that you can tell people? How did you overcome your struggle, and what's something you can tell somebody who's having a hard time finding a rhythm now that they've been disrupted?
Right. Just go back and be patient. If you don't know where to start, maybe just copy something you've done in the past. So you don't have to come up with the brilliant idea, but you just get the physical moves back in. You know, if it's a painting, just copy an old painting, do one more version of it. But be patient, and don't be frustrated, because it will come back.
That's really good advice. I teach dance, and I teach people, if you can't and you have nothing to do, just walk. If you're moving, it's so much easier to take that next step. And it's funny, I also tell people, when you find a move that you like, keep doing it, but just add a little bit extra. And it's the same idea. If you start off your old template, you may get bored of doing the same thing, but it takes you so far, and all of a sudden, when you're halfway there, you have a whole new world of possibility. And the limitation that you think you're creating by having to fine line is actually hugely inspirational. And I think sometimes people take too much creative weight, thinking everything has to be totally original, or that you don't want boundaries.
Right.
And like, a boundary is a starting point, or it's a point that directs your energy somewhere else, and really helps give you shape that takes some of the heavy lifting off.
I'm a big believer in painting the same thing over and over again, for those reasons you just explained. You're always gonna discover something new every time you do it with using that same structure. It's really valuable.
That is cool, and that is a good advice. So for all you young artists who are struggling, remember, every piece doesn't have to be completely original. Find your rhythm, find your voice, and each time let it express and manifest in slightly different ways. So I guess we'll end with, what is one general piece of advice that you would give to a young creative, whether it is an artist, a painter, a musician, a writer, about the creative process and pursuing a life as a creative?
Oh, well, I'll say, if you feel something special within you about, or a desire to create, you need to follow that up. It's a gift. And whether it's just something you do from time to time, or go as far as making it your life pursuit, do it, follow it up, and take it to wherever it can take you. And don't give up.
Great. So Kirsten, to end it, let's talk. Do you have anything that you want to plug? I know you have some pieces in a couple of different galleries around town. So where can people see or experience your work? And how can they get a hold of you if they're interested to learn more or commission a piece?
People can see my work at www.kirstenkainz.net. People can make appointments to visit me in my studio. I have lots of works here. I do commissions, and I sell my pieces that are happening. I'm having a holiday showcase open air event December 4th and 5th. And I'll be featuring my work and other artists' work here for the holidays.
Oh, so cool. And they can find out more about that on Facebook?
On my website and maybe Facebook.
Under the events tab on your website?
Yes, under the events tab on my website. I'll have that listed.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys learned something about creativity, and we'll speak to you next time. Bye.